The 1965 United States quarter dollar, bearing the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust, represents one of the most historically significant transitional coins in American numismatics. Prior to 1965, all Washington quarters, minted from 1932 to 1964, were composed of 90% silver and 10% copper, making them not only functional currency, but also stores of intrinsic metal value. However, during the early 1960s, a massive national coin shortage occurred as the rising price of silver led citizens to hoard or melt down silver coins, causing panic within the U.S. Treasury and the general public. To prevent further circulation collapse, the U.S. government, under the Coinage Act of 1965, officially eliminated silver from dimes and quarters, replacing them with a copper-nickel-clad composition consisting of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. Thus, the 1965 quarter marked the very first year of the modern clad coinage era, making it a turning point between precious metal coinage and contemporary base metal currency. Unlike previous years, no mint mark was placed on any 1965 quarters, even though many were actually struck at the Denver and San Francisco facilities, as the government sought to discourage collecting and hoarding. The obverse design remained unchanged, still featuring the iconic portrait of George Washington, sculpted by John Flanagan, accompanied by the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date below his neck. The reverse continued to display the heraldic bald eagle, wings spread, perched upon a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, a powerful symbol of America's dual capacity for defense and peace. Because of urgent demand and government stockpiling, the 1965 quarter was minted in enormous quantities, with over 1.8 billion pieces produced, one of the highest mintages in U.S. coin history. As a result, circulated examples are extremely common and typically only worth face value, 25 cents. However, high-grade uncirculated specimens, especially those preserved in MS 66 or higher, can be more desirable to collectors and may sell for $20 to $200 depending on condition. Most famously, there exist highly coveted error varieties, including 1965 silver planchet errors, rare quarters accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver blanks from 1964, which can be worth $5,000 to over $10,000 if authenticated. Another collectible oddity includes off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and double dies, which likewise command premium auction values. Despite being abundant today, the 1965 quarter holds immense historical weight because it symbolizes the end of precious metal coinage in everyday American life. Older generations vividly remember sorting through pocket change in hopes of finding real silver, making this coin a nostalgic artifact of economic change. In modern times, while it may not glitter like its silver predecessors, the 1965 quarter remains a culturally and economically important piece of American history, marking the evolution of U.S. currency from value-backed metal to purely fiduciary coinage, a reminder that even the smallest coin can carry a story of national transformation. Next top. The 1966 United States quarter dollar, featuring the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust, stands as a continuation of one of the most pivotal shifts in American coinage history, the full transition from silver-based currency to modern base metal-clad coinage. Following the Coinage Act of 1965, which eliminated silver from circulating dimes and quarters due to a national silver shortage and widespread hoarding of precious metal coins, the 1966 quarter was minted using the newer copper-nickel-clad composition, consisting of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, giving it its now familiar sandwich appearance when viewed from the side. This change marked the definitive end of the classic 90% silver Washington quarter era, which had endured from 1932 to 1964. Unlike earlier years, the 1966 quarter bears no mint mark whatsoever, even though coins were produced at multiple U.S. mint facilities. This deliberate omission was implemented by the government in an attempt to discourage coin collecting, which they believed was contributing to coin shortages nationwide. As with its 1965 predecessor, The obverse of the 1966 quarter retains the timeless portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan, proudly facing left with liberty, arched above his head, and, "In God We Trust," positioned to his left. Beneath his bust stands the date 1966, boldly signifying its place in the early clad era. The reverse, equally unchanged, depicts the majestic bald eagle, wings raised, clutching a bundle of arrows, symbolizing American readiness and defense, while resting upon a pair of olive branches, a universal emblem of peace. Surrounding this proud national icon is the inscription, United States of America, and the denomination quarter dollar. Because of high public demand for circulating coinage during the mid-1960s coin shortage, the U.S. Mint produced a staggering number of 1966 quarters, over 821 million pieces in total. As a result, most circulated examples are exceedingly common and typically hold only their face value of 25 cents. However, high-grade mint-state uncirculated examples, particularly those graded MS 66 or above, can be more desirable to collectors and may fetch $15 to $75 or more, depending on strike quality, luster, and preservation. There also exist rare and valuable mint errors among 1966 quarters, such as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or, in extremely rare cases, coins accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets from 1964 or even foreign planchets, and these anomalies can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars if authenticated by reputable grading services. The 1966 quarter, while seemingly ordinary to most people today, is in fact a symbolic artifact of economic evolution, representing the nation's shift away from intrinsic metal value toward fully fiduciary currency, where faith in the government, as expressed in the motto, "In God We Trust," became more significant than the physical value of the coin itself. For older generations, it evokes nostalgia, reminding them of a time when pocket change still contained real silver and people eagerly inspected every coin in hopes of finding one from 1964 or earlier. For modern collectors and historians, it serves as a quiet yet powerful marker of America's financial transformation. Though humble in appearance, the 1966 Washington quarter is more than just a coin. It is a witness to national change, a small but enduring testament to how economic necessity reshaped the very metal in our hands. Next top. The 1967 United States quarter dollar, commonly known as the Washington quarter, holds a unique place in American coinage history as part of the nation's transitional coinage era. Bearing the inscriptions "Liberty" above the bust and "In God We Trust" to the left of George Washington's profile, this coin maintained the classic design first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth. However, unlike earlier quarters minted between 1932 and 1964, which were composed of 90% silver and 10% copper, the 1967 quarter was struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition with a pure copper core sandwiched between two layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it a silvery appearance despite containing no actual silver. This change came in response to the Coinage Act of 1965, passed during a national silver shortage caused by rising bullion prices and coin hoarding. As part of these emergency measures, mint marks were removed entirely from U.S. coins dated 1965, 1966, and 1967, meaning that even though millions of these quarters were struck at various mints, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, none of them carried distinguishing mint marks, making location-based attribution nearly impossible. The reverse design, featuring the heraldic eagle perched atop a bundle of arrows with olive branches below, continued unchanged. Weighing 5.67 grams and measuring 24.3 millimeters in diameter, the coin was produced in massive quantities, over 1.5 billion pieces, to meet circulating demand and discourage hoarding. While most 1967 quarters hold only face value today, certain high-grade, uncirculated, or special mint set (SMS) examples with strong strikes, cameo contrast, or rare die varieties can fetch $20 to several $100s among collectors. Although often overlooked due to its commonality and lack of silver content, The 1967 quarter represents a pivotal moment in U.S. monetary history, symbolizing the nation's shift from precious metal coinage to modern clad currency and standing as a physical reminder of how economic pressure can reshape even the most iconic of American traditions. Next top. The 1968 United States quarter dollar, bearing the familiar inscriptions Liberty above and In God We Trust to the left of George Washington's bust, stands as a continuation of the iconic Washington Quarter series, yet marks an important transition in the history of American coinage. Unlike pre-1965 quarters, which were composed of 90% silver, the 1968 quarter, like those from 1965 onward, was made with a copper-nickel-clad composition, consisting of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, resulting in a total weight of 5.67 grams and a diameter of 24.3 millimeters. This change was the outcome of the Coinage Act of 1965, passed due to a national silver shortage that caused the public to hoard silver coins, forcing the U.S. Mint to adopt cheaper materials to keep currency circulating. After a 3-year period during which mint marks were intentionally omitted from all coins, 1965 to 1967, to discourage collectors from stockpiling them by mint location, 1968 marked the return of mint marks, but with an important change. Instead of being placed on the reverse below the eagle, they were shifted to the obverse front, just to the right of Washington's ribbon and under the motto, In God We Trust. Most 1968 quarters were produced at the Denver Mint, and thus carry a D mint mark, while Philadelphia continued to strike circulation coins but without a mint mark, as it had traditionally done for non-proof coins. However, San Francisco was reactivated specifically for proof coin production, and therefore proof quarters from 1968 carry an S mint mark and were sold only in special proof sets rather than being released into general circulation. The reverse design remained unchanged, displaying the heraldic eagle clutching arrows with olive branches beneath, symbolizing both military readiness and peace. While the 1968 quarter is common in circulation and holds face value in worn condition, high-quality uncirculated examples, especially those graded MS 65 or higher, as well as proof coins with deep cameo DCM contrast, can be valued anywhere from $10 to over $200, depending on condition and strike quality. Some minor die varieties and errors, such as off-center strikes or double die obverse, are also collected by specialists. Though often overlooked due to its modern clad composition and widespread availability, the 1968 quarter represents the stabilization phase of America's transition away from silver coinage, reaffirming how economic necessity reshaped U.S. currency while preserving traditional symbolism and patriotic inscriptions that continue to define American coinage today. Next top. The 1969 United States quarter dollar, part of the long-running Washington Quarter series, is a fascinating coin deeply rooted in American history, symbolism, and monetary evolution, carrying on its obverse the unmistakable portrait of George Washington, the nation's first president, designed by sculptor John Flanagan in 1932 to commemorate the bicentennial of Washington's birth. The bust faces left in stoic dignity, crowned above by the bold inscription Liberty, a constant reminder of the nation's foundational principle, while tucked just beneath the president's chin lies the solemn national motto, In God We Trust, a phrase which first appeared on U.S. coinage during the Civil War era and became officially mandated by Congress in 1955 as a spiritual affirmation of national identity during the tense Cold War years. Directly below the truncation of the bust rests the year, 1969. Placing this particular issue at the tail end of a turbulent decade marked by the moon landing, the Vietnam War, civil rights struggles, and Cultural Revolution, making even a simple piece of pocket change a silent witness to societal transformation. Unlike earlier Washington quarters minted between 1932 and 1964, which were struck in 90% silver and 10% copper, the 1969 quarter belongs to the modern clad era. Introduced in 1965 as rising silver prices forced the U.S. Mint to switch to a more affordable metal composition. Thus, the 1969 quarter features a copper-nickel outer layer bonded to a pure copper core, giving the coin its characteristic sandwich appearance when viewed from the edge. This clad composition is durable, cost-effective, and resistant to tarnish, which is why most quarters from this period remain in circulation today despite being more than 5 decades old. The reverse side of the 1969 quarter continues to feature Flanagan's striking heraldic eagle design, wings spread proudly across the field while perched upon a bundle of arrows symbolizing military preparedness, resting atop an olive branch signifying peace, and encircled by the inscriptions, United States of America at the top and E pluribus unum, out of many one, beneath, followed by the denomination quarter dollar. Minted in 3 locations, Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D, and San Francisco, S. The 1969 issue is generally considered common in circulated condition, yet some rare varieties and errors, such as double dies, off-center strikes, or the elusive but controversial 1969 S-proof double die obverse, have made headlines in the coin-collecting world for fetching prices ranging from hundreds to tens of thousands of dollars at auction. However, an ordinary circulated example typically has a face value of 25 cents and a collector value of around 25 to 50 cents unless preserved in uncirculated or mint state condition, in which case values can rise into the $5 to $50 range depending on grading, eye appeal, and mint mark. Although it may seem like a simple coin at first glance, the 1969 quarter serves as a bridge between the precious metal era and the practical modern age of American coinage, carrying with it not just transactional utility but also artistic pride, national symbolism, and historical resonance. It jingled in the pockets of astronauts, activists, soldiers, and everyday citizens of the late 1960s, passed through diners, toll booths, jukeboxes, and telephone slots, and continues to circulate today as one of the most recognizable pieces of currency in the world, a humble yet enduring artifact of trust, liberty, and shared heritage. Next top. The 1988 United States quarter dollar, commonly referred to as the Washington quarter, was struck at the Denver Mint as part of the long-running Washington Quarter series, which originally began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, the first president of the United States. The D mint mark, located on the obverse front of the coin just right of Washington's ponytail, signifies that it was produced in Denver. The obverse features a left-facing portrait of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan, with the inscriptions Liberty at the top, In God We Trust, to the left of Washington's profile, and the date, 1988, at the bottom. The reverse, back, of the coin showcases a bald eagle with widespread wings, clutching a bundle of arrows symbolizing strength and readiness for defense, with 2 olive branches below, representing peace, a classic design also created by Flanagan. Surrounding this are the inscriptions United States of America, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, and quarter dollar. Unlike earlier quarters minted from 1932 to 1964, which were made of 90% silver and 10% copper, the 1988 D quarter is composed of a copper-nickel-clad alloy, featuring an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, giving it a visible reddish-brown edge when viewed from the side. Each coin weighs approximately 5.67 grams, measures 24.3 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded, grooved edge. In total, the Denver Mint struck an enormous 596,810,688 pieces in 1988, making this coin very common in circulation today. Because of its high mintage, most circulated examples are worth only face value, 25 cents, although uncirculated or mint state coins, especially MS 65 and above, can be worth $2 to $10, and pristine certified examples graded MS 67 or MS 68 can sell for $100 or more at auction. Occasionally, collectors search for rare minting errors, such as off-center strikes, double dies, or missing lettering, which can raise the value significantly. While the 1988 D quarter may not be rare or made of precious metals, It remains an iconic piece of everyday American currency and represents the final decade of the original eagle reverse design, which was later replaced in 1999 by the 50-state quarters program. For collectors, even a basic quarter like this helps preserve a chapter of U.S. minting history, reflecting not only patriotic symbolism but also the evolution of American coinage technology and design through the late 20th century.